Well, hello everyone. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year from our entire staff here at UnAnchored Boston.
You're
And
looking at it.
yeah, and here we go. Last show of 2023. Who would have thought, right? And as
Right.
always, we're brought to you by Cold Springs RV, your destination for all things camping and where. We're in New Hampshire, of course, and the great George Gray, the big wheel we call him, at George Gray's Lexington Toyota. All right, Rob Lobel, Mike Lynch with you, and we're going to be joined shortly by Upton Bell. Before that, Bob and I are going to gab about a few things, take care of a few things, get a few thoughts off from our mind, and fire away. What do we got right there? Bob?
Yeah, it
Of
says,
course you are. Yeah, of course
what's
you
this?
are.
At the top, it says,
Let's say it ahead of that.
of course, I'm right.
Oh,
What do you got? No, I don't need that. Thanks.
no,
Of course, I'm right. I'm about that.
okay. There you go. So a nice thing in the Globe magazine on Channel 4.
Yeah, it was good.
It was really, really nice. Good to look back and good memories. I'm sure there were for you.
Well, it was. I had a long talk with Jack Williams last night, and I hadn't talked to him in about a year, and we did a lot of laughing and a little crying. And he said to say hi, Mike. He wished you the best.
Good.
He said it more than once. He said, "Make sure you tell Lynchy I said hi." So I did. Yeah, he's
Good guy. Good guy. It's very rare you get so many people that are so good at their job and that are even nice with people. And
he's great. He's a funny guy. He's a very funny guy. We had a lot of laughs playing golf over the years. I'll tell you that.
Liz, terrific person, and it's great. And the same with our people. To Chet.
Of course. I mean, it's you know what? I kind of read that it was on the Globe it's in the Globe magazine, and it's online. It'll come out in print on next Sunday, on New Year's Eve, in the Globe newspaper, in the Globe magazine. But I also read that, and I thought he did a great job in writing it. But it was about us, and of course I think it was a great job. But I'm thinking, well, if I'm Lynch or Natalie or Chet, and I'm reading all this, and and the late Dickie, and I'm saying, well, wait a minute, we had a pretty good team too, and of course you did, absolutely. I mean, this was just based on the 75th anniversary or wherever of the first station. I remember now, Channel 5 went through a lot of angst when they moved over from the call letters and everything else that went on, and how they became, CBB is, it was a shit show.
Yeah, 1972.
And we were all young once, and it was all back. It all went so fast.
You know what CBB stands for?
I'm afraid to ask.
C is channel, V is Roman numeral 5, and B is Boston.
It makes a lot of sense.
Of course, I worked there for about 30 years before I finally figured it out.
Yeah, that's clever.
Yeah,
it's good.
Speaking of which, not only because I got this on my mind, I don't want to forget. Have you seen the series Murder in Boston on Charles Stewart and Carol DeMady?
I have not seen. I've heard a lot of people talk about it. I've not seen it yet. I'm just kind of waiting it. Globe did an amazing series on that.
Guess who the producer was?
Barnacle? No.
Our boy Jason Hare.
Really?
Did Last Dance with the Chicago Bulls.
I know that. We had him on.
Intern for both of us.
Maybe we should have him on this. Let's have him on this.
We should. I know he'd come on.
That'd be great. No, let's do that, because I think that'd be fascinating.
People don't know. Yeah, people don't know. I mean, the hours of pouring through old news archives, just finding the shot that you want. It might be a 5-second shot that you need to illustrate a point, and to find it's not easy.
I'm really glad you brought that up. No, that's I got to do that must-watch thing. There's so many things out there. Damn it! Things I'm watching. Fargo. Fargo's amazing. It's an amazing show. And
good?
yeah, I mean, it's like 5 episodes, and I haven't. So I started with the 5th episode because I just found out about it, and now I got to wait for the next episode to drop, and it drops today. And so I am back to the first Fargo, first series. It's amazing, and just amazing. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is there's so much stuff out there to watch. There's the Yogi Berra thing. There's
Oh yeah, how about that? I want to see that.
No, you know, you'll love it. It's absolutely great.
I really like the way you're getting with the lingo, though. You said it drops today.
Oh, well, it's, right. I know it's the lingo. It's the new streaming thing.
Oh, before I go, happy birthday to you too. This is December 27th. We're taping, and birthday boy was on December 24th, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now,
Yeah.
right. Starting another trip around the sun. So I had all these things to talk to you about, starting with.
Go ahead.
I had a whole list of people I wanted to get on between Mike Adams and Ron Borges and now Jason Hare. That'd be great to talk about this thing in Boston.
Yeah.
But, I have this whole list.
Terry O'Reilly,
Lee Montville, Larry Johnson, Barnacle Ordway but Jason Hare is right there at the top of the list. So when Upton comes on, I don't know, Michael. I even wrote down spring training, but does anybody really give a shit?
No.
Huh?
No, because there's nobody to look forward to seeing at spring training. Usually there's, when Pedroia arrives, big deal. Big Papi arrives, it's a big deal. Manny arrives, it's a big deal. Schilling arrives, it's a big deal. And then your cameraman has to be in 12 places at once. And you try to get that money shot, and somebody might be just greeting somebody, and somebody might be coming in the back door. Schilling would come in, always wearing an NFL jersey or a hockey jersey. And now it's like, who are these guys? You're taking your program and you're looking to see who this guy is coming in the door.
Thank God it's not Verdugo. I'm not going to miss him.
No one will miss him.
No, but what a jerk, huh?
Yeah. Who's a bigger jerk, Verdugo or the guy that intercepted the pass for Oakland, scored a touchdown, went to give it to the little kid in the first row, and then
yeah. That was pretty stupid. That was unbelievable.
Played for the Patriots, didn't he? Jack Jones.
Yes. Oh, he's the guy who loaded gun at the airport, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I had that video. We should have pulled that stupid video to show. Yeah, he's the guy that had the wherewithal of showing up with loaded guns and ammunition at Logan Airport.
He wasn't the dummy. The district attorney that let him off.
It was a whole list of things. Jack Jones. Oh, why can't we get players like that? But the spring training, the Bruins and Celtics, they just go on and go on. I don't know what's going on with the Bruins.
Hey, we had a great game Christmas Eve. It was an unbelievable game.
Yeah.
I know that people stayed up for it because, they might have to go to bed because Santa was going. But I was at my brother-in-law's house, and I left his house at halftime, and I taped the game. So I'm watching the game. I said, all right, I was up 2 touchdowns. I got to go to bed. Now I'm going to watch this. So I was up till 1:30 in the morning and watching that thing. And then the poor guy that couldn't even make an extra point drills one through from 54 or something like that. But boom. And
unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, the guy was probably going to be cut for the last 2 games. And now he's the hero.
Well, Bruins are making if they want to defend their President's Cup, they're going to have to kick it in gear. What's more relevant, the President's Cup or the in-season tournament for the NBA?
Oh, if I were the Lakers, I'd be having a ceremony. Bring all the great guys back, like Magic and Jerry West and
Right.
Kareem, Pat Riley, and just celebrate that in-season tournament.
Rambus, called the Rambus Cup.
We were sitting right there when Kevin McHale clotheslined Rambus. It happened right almost in our lap.
Did.
And we had great seats, and it came right at us. And we just saw that. I don't think we realized what an historic moment we were watching, because every game kind of melts it together, but that, was a series changer. It was a thing that still lives on today. And we were right there. Rambus and McHale were running right at us, and they couldn't have been more than 10 feet away from us when all that stuff happened.
And for some reason, we were kind of celebrating, and the guy from the NBA, the vice president, came over and told us to stop it.
Brian McIntyre.
Right, no celebrating in the press box, or no cheering or laughing, but we couldn't help it. It was such a great play.
Yeah. Right, it was right in front of us. Hey, we should have trumpets. Ladies and gentlemen.
He's not on yet.
Back your chair up.
Mr. Upton Bell.
Your chair up.
Listen, I'll give you all your guests. I've been listening to the whole conversation. Now, here's somebody you want to get on, and I will contact him personally. He's coming out with a book.
Oh.
And he's one of the great coaches, players of all time in the NFL, Dick LeBeau.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
His story is unbelievable. I saw him when he played for the Lions.
And that for Ohio State?
Huh?
Go, never mind.
When he played in that great backfield. And he was an amazing player. By the way, one of the last white players that played corner. There are no white players that play corner in the NFL today.
Right.
Haven't been for many years. But this guy coached into his, I think he's 80s or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But he can take you guys back all the way to when it was what it was really.
Upton, you didn't even let us introduce you. We were going to introduce you.
Huh?
You just came out guns firing.
I don't need any introduction. Are you kidding me? I mean, that's it. Oh, I want to show Joanne. Give me that picture.
Right here.
We all.
By the way, Joanne O'Neill, my wife. You don't know this. She was one of the first women to ever get a job in the NFL with the Miami Dolphins, and she left to come back. Too bad for her, to the Patriots, because Don Shula wanted to hire her as his top person. Really? She saw the whole NFL. She wrote 27 teams, and they all said, forget it. The Dolphins were the only ones that gave her a chance. She was really, all these other people that claimed that they were, Joanne was the first woman in pro football. I give you all these gems, you guys.
You do.
We're just processing it.
And the thing, I'm looking here at the screen. It says Mike Lynch, first name, last name, Bob Lobel. But in front of you're like Magic or Kareem or Ali. It just says Upton. That's all it says. Upton. That's all you need to know.
That's all you need. That's it. Which is another story before we get into all of this.
Your mother's
1957. The starting Malvern basketball team. Upton Bell, Paul Westhead, later to be coach of the Lakers.
Yeah.
Kelly, head of and the captain of Penn. Jim O'Brien, the captain of Villanova. Vince Wolfington, who played and was a captain of Georgetown with Paul Tagliabue.
Wow.
5 of the greatest that ever lived. and it's funny, I got in touch with Westhead. That's another guy you ought to get on. And the reason is that whole series that came out on HBO really portrayed him in a completely wrong way.
Yes, I agree.
That wasn't Westhead.
No,
And
the Lakers thing was a joke. The Lakers series was a joke.
It was a joke, and I know the guy that wrote the screenplay and the book on it, and the whole thing about Jerry West. I did meet and know Jerry West briefly through a friend of mine, Hot Rod Hundley, who was his buddy, did the radio. I spent 2 evenings with Jerry West. He never cursed and never picked up a drink.
Oh.
We sat and talked the game. He's among the nicest people I've ever met in this business.
Yep,
And when I saw that portrayal with all the F's and all the other stuff, I said, It's bullshit. It's ridiculous. So there are a lot of myths that I could bust.
How many points did you average when you were at Malvern Prep? How many points per game?
16 points per game.
Which is about
And I wasn't the highest scorer. Westhead was.
Yeah. Which is like scoring about 30 today, right?
Absolutely. Now, I believe it or not, at that time before I shrunk, I could dunk a basketball.
Oh, come on.
No, I could.
Really?
I could.
Lowy.
5'11", I could dunk a basketball, and the coach came to me and said, "Don't do that anymore." He said, "because you'll bring the rim down," and he said, "You're going to have to pay for it. Malvern Prep will not pay for this crap that you're doing." That was the end.
You're like Daryl Dawkins, you know?
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
A lot of similarities here. Let me just kind of stir this conversation over to. It seems like every game, every team, in its own particular way, has become some kind of a show, some kind of a soap opera. Every team, every game is a soap opera now. And the biggest soap opera of all is 20 miles down the road in Foxborough. I mean, if you want a soap opera, what's going on with the Patriots is about as soap opera-ish as you possibly can get. You can't make this up. Everybody talks about it every day.
Well, let me first take you behind the scenes as a former owner of a team and try and give you a perspective of what's happening here versus the things that I dealt with. I'm not saying they're completely the same.
Let me make sure that Mike, as Mike wanted to say, former general manager of the New England Patriots, hired by Billy Sullivan, and back when the world was flat, basically, was when you
you're right, hired and fired. And before that, the personnel director with Don Shula of the Baltimore Colts. And in that 1971 championship Super Bowl game, 17 of the players that I personally drafted were starters on that team. And that's how I ended up getting the job here.
Well, of course, and your father was the first commissioner of the National Football League and instituted the drafts. And we'll talk more about that when we have time. But let's go back to this shit show that exists down the road.
All right, let me get into it and give you insight you're not going to get on all of these channels where everybody pretends like they know what's going to happen. In 1974, I bought the New York Stars, took them to Charlotte, North Carolina, and they became the Charlotte Hornets. My first year coach was Babe Purley, who I absolutely loved, sweetheart of a guy.
Vito.
But by the end of the season, I decided that he wasn't the guy that I thought could lead this team, if the league lasts, could lead this team on to a better situation. He was too nice, too close to the players. He had a lot of terrific knowledge. You would love the guy if you met him, but I felt like it was time to move on, and I did. I did the painful thing. At the end of the year, I fired a person I liked a lot and brought in Bob Gibson, who was a disciplinarian, tough, terrific coach, ended up going to the New York Giants and unfortunately took the blame for the fumble by Larry Zonka and was fired along with John McVay, who went on to the 49ers. But what I learned and what I could apply to this was that it's not easy to fire a coach whether you like him or not. And there are many things that go into it. But what I also found out, and will apply to here in a minute, is when you have made that decision, you don't go back on it. You don't second guess yourself. You go through and you pull the trigger. Now, how does it relate to here? Let me go back again. In 1972, I got a call. I had not met him yet, from Bob Kraft to come to his house to meet, get this, Martina Navratilova, because he had bought a world team tennis team. And he wanted people to come over and socialize. By the way, I loved his wife. If his wife was there now, we'd have had a decision. But and getting to know him over a period of years until he stopped speaking to me is, and Bob, you know that situation too, is that there are two things. One, he hates controversy. He doesn't want, when it becomes too much, he really hates it. Two, he loves publicity. And somewhere between being on some television show every 10 seconds and also the idea of now having to fire the most successful person, people say, in NFL history, I disagree. I think this. I think he had set out to fire him. I think he laid out the plan starting at the league meetings a couple of years ago. Kraft never directly attacks or deals with you. Jonathan Kraft would have you beheaded, but Bob Kraft would be the guy that would come in and want to make, and would take a very difficult time. He's very old school in wanting to fire you. So he now looks at it. He got talked into getting rid of Brady. Biggest mistake he ever made in his career. Biggest mistake. He let himself be overrun by Belichick, and forever will be remembered as the owner who let Brady go. So now you have the confluence of a guy that I think has made up his mind, pushed into it somewhat by his son, Jonathan Kraft. And I understand why. I'm more with Jonathan Kraft than I am with Bob. And now what happens? Belichick wins a couple of games. It's really easy if you go on and never win another game. But he pulls one out in Pittsburgh, and he's got a dramatic victory. And I heard you and Lynchy talking before the show, and it was. I tuned in with no expectations. I found myself again rooting for the Patriots, and I don't root for anybody. What was a better story on Christmas Eve than this story? So now you've got a guy that says to himself, I haven't said anything. I pretty much made up my mind. But knowing Kraft, don't be surprised if, and this is the big if Belichick agrees to having a front office, which they always should have had, don't be surprised if Kraft announces he's coming back. How does he do this? He wants to be, always remember this, more than Belichick, Kraft wants to be remembered in many different ways. He didn't get into the Hall of Fame yet. He still hopes he can get into the Hall of Fame. He's out everywhere. He was on CNN last night or the night before talking about the situation of anti-Semitism. He loves being seen in his box. He even has high chairs so he can look out over everybody else. There's that element to him. And you know what? I find nothing wrong with any of this. But in the end, I think at this moment, he is really torn. And therefore, I would say it could go either way. I think he's going to fire him, but it's not 100% guaranteed.
I agree, Upton. I don't. Anybody who thinks they know what's going to happen is not telling the truth, because I don't think anybody really knows what's going to happen. There's all kinds of scenarios, and Robert is the only one who knows what's going to happen, and we'll know in 10 days.
Maybe not. Maybe because the one thing that I think that he thinks in his mind, and I think it's foolishness, is that if he can come into the room and say, look, Bill, especially if they win one of the last two games, if they give Buffalo a good game, and I think they will, by the way. I mean, I really like that defense. The offense is pathetic, but I like that defense. But he's got all this stuff going now, whether you like the quarterback or not. He has made them look like a professional team in spite of the worst offense. That offensive line of the Patriots is the worst I have ever seen.
So let me ask you this. Yeah, it's really bad. So let me ask you this about Pittsburgh and Denver. You think it's more of the Patriots winning those two games as opposed to Pittsburgh and Denver losing those two games? I mean, how good is Denver if they had to lose to the Patriots at home in a game they had to totally win? And you telling me the Patriots played well against Denver? Did they play well against Pittsburgh? I didn't see that. I must have been watching another game, because I wouldn't give them credit for winning a close games. I give those other teams bad marks for losing those close games.
Well, I would say it's a little bit of both. And here's a bigger picture of the NFL. And I've been called by historians all over the country to ask me what I think about the NFL now versus even 20 years ago. And I said the NFL now, there are at least 16 really, really mediocre teams. And the only way, there are very, very few definitive victories. One was the other night when the Ravens beat the 49ers. They beat the shit out of them in every single way. But if you look at most of the games, the game earlier in the day, Kansas City, what a screw up. I mean, the Raiders might be, along with the Patriots, two of the worst teams in the league. So what I'm getting around to is saying, you're right, Bob, on one hand, but on the other hand, that's the league the way we know it today. Mediocrity reigns, and if you can be a little bit better than the mediocre team you're playing, you're pretty good. So I give them credit for that. I also really give them credit for this. Being on teams and around situations where I've seen teams totally quit. If ever a team could quit in the middle of the controversy, not knowing what's going to happen to the head coach and not knowing what's going to happen to the assistants, this is the best. They never won another game. I will give them credit for this. They never quit. There were hardly any dogs in that building, and that is most unusual.
That's a fair statement. I don't know what you think about it, Mike, but and I guess both of you. The league's got it all, and this is what they wanted. This is parity. This is parity at its ultimate. When every team is 500, that's ultimate parity.
Not good.
I mean, not good, but that was what their goal is. But not good, but good, because not only is every team capable of beating every other team, it's this point of the season when they've added more playoff spots, more teams. It's like the Red Sox. They're like conditioned for dreams, field of dreams. The dreams are that they're going to make the playoffs. It's not based on any reality, but some of these teams still have a shot at the playoffs, and therefore their fan base is sucked into believing they got to watch every game. And I just think it's the perfect storm for the NFL. They control everything. They control almost everything in our society. Forget Gaza, forget Ukraine, forget the climate change. It's the NFL that rules over everything right now.
Well, they have taken over Christmas, Easter, New Year's, I mean, everything. But just remember something that I watch very closely. And I'll give you an example. I watch everything. I am a sucker for watching it all. Not that I love it, because a lot of it turns me off for what I see. It's a lot of bullshit that they're putting out there. But watch the ratings. Let's see long run what the ratings say. Monday night, Thursday night, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, Monday night, Peacock, Amazon. Now, I get Amazon and it stinks. The games stink. Finally, I said, when they promote Saturday night, you can get this game exclusively, the Bills and the Chargers, on Peacock. You know what I said? Screw Peacock. I ain't paying for it. This is the first time in my unillustrious career that I said, screw Peacock. I'm not doing it. I'll watch the highlights.
Somebody comes to your house and says, stick them up. It's like somebody comes in and says, stick them up to your house.
That's where. Here is my prediction. Long after I'm gone and you guys are still doing your thing, you can remember that Upton Bell told you that someday the Super Bowl on internationally, it'll cost you $25 a piece or more to watch the game. They are moving towards all paid TV. They can get away with certain things, but that's the other thing that brings up here is I watch owners going from when I was a kid all the way to the ones today. The ones in the past, I'm not saying they were any better or any worse. They had a semblance of a feeling for the game, that the money that came in wasn't as important to them as growing the league and having the game. Now you have the David Teppers of the world. You have people that have come in and bought the franchises who are business people. They want the bottom line. What is the one thing that the commissioner of football wants? He doesn't talk about how great the game is, how we're growing the game. He talks about, we plan by so-and-so time to go to $50 billion for this league. That's the bottom line, combined with still a big danger, they don't realize it yet, to taking in gambling. And I am so sick of whether I care for gambling or not. Every telecast leads off with gambling, gambling, gambling. Everybody's got a show on it.
You know what? Let me just point out one thing in the National Hockey League. It's not only NFL, it's every league. But the National Hockey League, between periods, they offered, if there's a major fight, major penalty, you can bet. This is the announcer selling out. You want to bet on whether there's going to be a major penalty in this period. I don't know if you saw it or not. It was unbelievable, like the ultimate.
But that's where we are. Everybody has a gambling show. There was some guy they showed on ABC last night on their news, and he had put $5 down on a combination of how many touchdowns would be scored. He won $500,000, and so the NFL will promote that. But it's somewhere along the line. Here's the witch's brew: the gambling, the constant TV, the siphoning off of it, and more importantly, look around the country. Less and less and less high schools are playing football, particularly in Texas. The NFL is smart. They've jumped into flag football, And that's another thing I think you'll see someday with the game now being played on the outside. Lynchy, you were a quarterback. Bob, you played in high school. Watch where the game is played. It's not played inside, it's played outside. And that, I think, someday will be some form of what you see.
Don't you think it was really kind of appalling that even some of the local schools didn't have to cancel games because they didn't have enough players in high school? When have you ever heard that they've had to cancel games because they didn't have enough players to play?
It's two reasons. Soccer is one reason, and the other reason is what the hell was I going to say? Oh, a lot of parents are really, when the kids get to that age, 9, 10 years old, I don't want him playing football. I don't want him hurting his head. I don't want him getting his knees screwed up. So they play another sport instead of football, and that's one of the big problems.
Well, it is. The NFL has gotten into all of those different leagues, but look at the Pro Bowl. My father founded the Pro Bowl. That's when people needed to make money, and they continued it on ad nauseum. And now, what is it? It's flag football. It's all this other crap. But they think that they have an audience that will look at it because nothing else. But I warn people. They keep saying it'll never happen. But it's like everything else. Give people too much of anything. And sooner or later, they'll say, okay, I'm going to watch that game.
No, you're right. It's happening already. I feel it already. I absolutely am in that place that you're describing right now. It's like, okay, 3 games. I'm not watching 3 games a day. I'm not. I got a life. Not much of a life, but it's a life. Okay, before we talk about the officiating and the injuries, the quarterbacks in the NFL, I need to read something that makes it all possible that we can continue to talk. So just hang on for a second.
Okay.
Campers, I'm talking about campers. Okay, gather around, campers. Get ready for 2024. That's it, with a new RV. Cold Springs RV has the latest in pop-ups, travel trailers, fifth wheelers, and motorhomes. So when you need an RV or service, get the Cold Springs RV in Ware, New Hampshire, which is just west of Goffstown.
Where?
West of Goffstown and north of Haverhill. I have the name of a street from Goffstown called Upton Lane that I furloughed off of a telephone pole and gave it to my partner Upton Lane. They haven't come and asked for it back yet. And I'm lucky I didn't
They
get
ain't getting it back because it's in the Upton Bell collection.
Okay, I could have
Signed
been.
by you.
Wait a minute, I could have been electrocuted getting it. By the way, so when you need an RV or service, get the Cold Springs RV in Ware, New Hampshire. Like I said, west of Goffstown. Go check out all the Winnebago Access travel trailers now on their lot. So don't forget to tell them Lobel, Mike Lynch sent you, and Upton as well. Learn more at coldspringsrv.com. Now, Mike, I did think he asked you a question, Upton, about this in the past, but we're going to continue our tradition and ask it again because perhaps you'll make a different choice. Go ahead, Mike.
All right, Uppy, here we go. We've asked this before, but I'll refresh it for you. Cold Springs RV, great sponsor. We love them. They're in the process of building a Lobel cruiser, like the Madden cruiser. Madden wouldn't fly. They built them a bus. So we're going to build an RV for Lobel. It's called a Lobel cruiser. And each one of our guests on the show gets to use the Lobel cruiser for a week. You get to drive cross country. We'll fly you back from LA or San Francisco. But you have to pick someone to ride shotgun with you, someone you want to have a conversation with. It could be someone deceased, someone from the past, someone from the
Bob Kraft. Could be Bob Kraft. He doesn't speak to you anymore. Now he'll speak to you.
It could be anybody that you desire to ride shotgun across country with for a week. Who would it be?
I'm still sticking with my story, Taylor Swift. I mean, there's the story of the year. She's going to dump him, and she's so.
Why? Because she already has a tight end.
Yeah. My reason is, first of all, I know where she lives because I used to go to the beach in Rhode Island and looked up on her mansion. I mean, here's a person other than Joanne that I've longed for forever. But I think I have a shot, whereas Kelsey doesn't. See, I'm not looking for anything, and I'm at the end of my life. So she's got nothing to lose. She stays with me, maybe, she's
Okay, well, you better
mine's
have,
on her side. She doesn't
sure-
even have to dump me.
I'm sure you're both great conversationalists and have plenty to talk about.
It's a great idea.
Not only that, she could write a song about me.
She
The
could.
Uptown Downtown Show, all around America. Think about that.
So why don't if I call it When I Dumped in Upton?
Yeah. Tell your advertiser, and I love his thing. Arrange it. Taylor and Upton. This is it. A trip to the light fantastic.
All right. What about? Let's stop talking about tight ends and talk about officiating in the league and all about quarterback injuries and stupid passer protection injuries that roughing the passer things that I just seem to be mucking up the whole flow of the game. There is no flow of the game anymore. It's every play's got a flag on it.
Well, it's not only that. There's like 5 minutes worth of commercials. You get that, you get the timeouts. Here, again, let me take you back and try to give your audience perspective. Going all the way back into the 40s when my father actually put a guy by the name of U.L. Shorty Ray in charge. He's in the Hall of Fame now, and told him that let the game flow. The officials you have, you're going to miss calls. There are going to be things, but let the game flow. Don't get too technical. Ironically, by the way, we were on our way out to the Chicago Bears training camp in 1946 as kids, and Shorty Ray, I knew the league was in trouble. Shorty Ray was driving the car, and every red light he went through and every green light he stopped. And I called my father and said, this goddamn guy can't see. He's colorblind. Yeah, and he's going to be head of officials. But the whole idea was, I think, with the instant replay, it changed everything because now to the point now where you can see it so well. I have a 65-inch set.
High definition of it. High definition. High def has changed everything.
Everything. High def. I've got a second set. I'm going to add a third set. And I can tell you for the first time, and you guys have played, I can see the whole field now. I can almost yell out to you what I think that defense is because I can see where the safeties are. I can see what the alignment is. I can see who's blitzing, all this stuff. So what my point is this, Bob and Mike, is that the officials now are under such pressure because the big eye in the sky can see everything that they call. And therefore, I think they've become either hesitant or overprotective, particularly with the quarterback. You know what? One time in the 60s, you could hit the quarterback after the play and tough shit. That was it. Now, they've refined the rules so much now. Who the hell knows what a catch is? Who the hell knows when a quarterback gets hit? What is the story?
If they're designed to protect the quarterback, why? What's happening, Mike?
I'm getting something. Go ahead.
Okay, it's not a good look, actually.
I know. That's my.
Well, it's not a bad look, but I'm just, it's not the trailer.
Wait do you see what I got?
Okay, I'm just saying, why? How come if they spent so much time protecting the quarterback's injuries, why are they getting injured so much? They spend all this time on protecting quarterback.
You've come to the doctor. You've come to the doctor of football philosophically. And that is this.
See this up? You see what he's holding up? You see what Mike's holding up? President.
I see it. President of the Creation. Me and Moses. So thank you, Mike.
That's what I was
way,
doing. I was reaching on the top shelf for it.
that was taken. That was taken where you played all your football.
Yeah, I
That
know.
picture is at Harvard Stadium.
Yes, it was.
So here's the thing.
Is that where MIT blew up that balloon at the Harvard Yale game?
Yes, it was.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So what has happened is, and I knew it right away. When I went to training camps all the way up through the 70s, you hit practically every day. You had 6 preseason games, sometimes 7. Your players didn't have to play full time, but they learned how to hit every day. When the Players Association made a deal with the NFL, they took the money and run, which meant that there were going to be a lot less practices, a lot less two-a-days, no hitting, particularly during the season. They killed that game, and particularly for the offensive and defensive line. The offensive line doesn't know how to pass protect. The offensive line is not used to getting hit. The quarterbacks are not used to getting hit. So therefore, you have more injuries than ever. And
look at that picture. Come on, where were we?
Yankee Stadium, 1978. And George Steinbrenner came on the show.
Okay, I remember that. Right. Good job.
Believe me, my mind's still going.
It is going.
So what has happened is you guys have to appreciate this. I mean, they look like windmills out there. The offensive line. And the players will tell you, we don't hit enough. We don't have enough padded practices. All of these YPOs and all this other crap that they do in the off season, it means nothing.
Why are these quarterbacks getting hurt so much?
Why? Because they have no protection. They look at
all the rules are in their favor.
Every offensive line looks like the Titanic going down. I watch that offensive line, all of them, very closely. The quarterback has no chance, and that's why you've seen the advent of you don't want to draft a quarterback today unless he can run. If he can't run, whether it's the RPOs, if he can't move in the pocket, he's dead meat. If you stand there and with the least pass protection, your knee's going to go out, you're going to get hit. I mean, it's a total.
Let me ask you guys both this. You think Belichick's biggest mistake that he's made, forget Mac Jones and Zappe and the way he's handled that, his biggest mistake was ignoring the offensive line, basically not building himself pro quality offensive line. I'm just asking both of you. Mike?
I think that every team, the teams that are up here, the 49ers, the Cowboys, the Dolphins, even the Chiefs, the Eagles, they all have 2 or 3 guys that can catch a pass and outrun everybody. You see CeeDee Lamb the other night run away from the Dolphins. You see the Dolphins guys run away from the Cowboys guys. We don't have anybody that can separate. Everything we do is like a 3-yard horizontal pass that travels about 60 yards to the sideline and a gain of 2. Patriots just don't have, and they always had the offensive line. I'll agree. I think Belichick always found it was easier to find, an undrafted guard, a versatile guy that could play. He doesn't have those guys anymore. But they don't have game breakers. They don't have guys that can turn a game around. You see a D.D. Samuel for the 49ers? Are you kidding me? Nobody like that. We have nobody like that. Nobody like CeeDee Lamb. Nobody like what's his name? The Tyreek Hill for the Miami Dolphins. Nobody.
Well, I would add to that.
That's why I say, forget about a quarterback. Marvin Harrison is your guy if he's available. That's the guy you want to take.
Well, unless there's a quarterback there that you think really I would favor Harrison. I would favor an offensive line.
Harrison will be there now. Number 4, I don't think he'll be there. But that's beside.
Who knows? I mean, we'll see how it ends up. But I think the other thing is, to me, even with their greatest teams, Belichick paid no attention to the offense. I mean, you look at it, he had Brady, the greatest, one of the greatest in my mind of all time, who could do it all. So therefore, he had average to a degree, except for Randy Moss receivers. He had a great tight end and with Gronk. But basically, Belichick, if you watch him, even to today, he wants defense. He thinks you still win on defense. Those days are going. And he didn't do a lot to help the offense. For some reason or another, that's been his mindset. So he did really nothing. And it's interesting. If you read Shakespeare or King Lear or any of this stuff, this is really a kind of a football tragedy. This is a guy that basically could have been. See, I don't think he's the greatest coach of all time. And my reason is that basically he was a coach and the general manager, which you don't do either, except for here. He killed himself. His drafts were pathetic the last 4 or 5 years. He never replenished anything. And then he made the biggest mistake of them all, and more of ego than actually of saying this guy can still play and letting Brady go. That was an ego thing. That wasn't, if you watch Brady play, you would say he didn't really lose anything. And you saw it again in Tampa. And even the second year.
Let me ask you this, because every one of these pieces of information is part of an overriding soap opera. So let me ask you this. Kraft tells Belichick, get rid of Garofalo. Right or wrong? Is that where it started?
I'm not sure.
Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead. Mike thinks that's the story.
Went from there. Yes,
Kraft
absolutely.
tells Belichick, get rid of Garofalo. And then in the end, Belichick tells Kraft, get rid of Brady. That's kind of what happened, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I don't totally agree with you guys.
Well, that's good. Well, that's what you totally agree with. Tell us.
I think it was a combination of things. I think less of Kraft and more of Brady. He saw that Brady, who was still, very, very effective, that he saw with Brady, that Brady was really getting pissed off and it wasn't working with the team. And maybe Kraft did step in. We'll never know. But I think it was I think Belichick created the Frankenstein monster and then wanted to destroy him. And when you look at it, I mean, I don't think they basically ever really got along in many ways once Brady really started to get going. Belichick, think about who was the one that wrote the definitive book on the Patriots and said it was fed to him by one of the assistant coaches that Belichick felt, or the Patriots felt, that basically they could plug anybody in there as quarterback and still win with his system.
Is that Benedict? Was that his book on Dynasty?
Yeah, I think it was. But it isn't true. And it wasn't true. So look where you have. And the other thing is, again, being an owner at one time, the son of an owner, is your responsibility is to your franchise. If Belichick had come into me and said he wanted to get rid of Brady, I would tell him in a nice enough way, I will get rid of you before I get rid of Brady. Because that's when it all went south. The whole thing. Yeah. They could have, ironically, Mike and Bob, if he had kept Brady, even though in 2019, after they won the Super Bowl, they didn't have a great year. They went to the playoffs and lost to Mike Vrabel's team. But when you really look at it, the responsibility of the owner was to say, look, I'm not going to allow it. You guys work it out. You don't. $25 million. And of course, we see what that means today. But that's if you look at it, Belichick always has been a defensive coach who to me tolerates offense. And that is what has brought him down, along with being a terrible general manager. Now, that's the other point is that most teams are designed, even if the coach has the most authority, they're designed where you have a general manager and you have a coach. Now, why did Kraft go to this thing? Because Kraft runs his other businesses this way. And I would have said to him if he had asked me, this ain't your other businesses. Football generally runs on a general manager and a coach. Now, you might give the coach more power, but you still have a general manager. You want somebody in there to say no. Who the hell says no?
There's one missing link to this whole thing when it all went south. And you might think I'm crazy unless you Ernie Adams. Ernie Adams. You see the headset Belichick wears on the sidelines? When Ernie Adams was there, it was a direct line to Ernie Adams upstairs. Every single, I've seen the raw tapes that never made air. What do we got, Ernie? What are we doing, Ernie? Who is that guy, Ernie? How far can we kick this field goal, Ernie? Well, which way how's the wind going to affect this punt, Ernie? Should I put a rush on there, Ernie? Ernie, should we put a blitz here? Ernie, can this guy run? Ernie, can this guy make 2 yards? No. Everything was Ernie. Who had an encyclopedic mind, was a brilliant guy, didn't even know how to turn on a computer. Okay, he was almost like Rain Man. He just had an answer for everything. If you watch before a game, Ernie would be out there just watching the other field goal kicker. And in his mind, he would register every kick he attempted, 42, 48, right hash, left hash, 56 yards. And he would be absolutely right. He said, don't go for go for it on fourth down here. Vinatieri can't make it from this distance going this end of the stadium. Other end of the stadium, he'll make it. And he was right. But this guy, his absence has been a big, big crutch taken away from Belichick.
I do agree, particularly on game day. But again, I think because Kraft, two things. There are a lot of things I hold him responsible for besides Belichick. And that is having one person, because it costs you less. He'll deny it, but it is absolutely true. You have one person in all his different companies. I don't know one person, one coach outside of maybe Vince Lombardi that had total authority. Because the minute you do that, you're kind of giving your franchise away. The other thing that and I've talked to many of the Patriot players, is it creates resentment. When you come in for a raise and you have to come into the coach instead of the general manager, and look at what they did here. How many people went out here? I've looked at all the different franchises along the years in the NFL. This is the only franchise where practically every player walked out of here pissed off. And that's because the coach, whatever he feels, and one of the players did say this, you walk in, you think you've had a great year, and this guy tells you, you're not going to make very much money. You don't want to. And one of the things that I learned from Shula was when he was in Miami and even at the Colts, and he said to me one day, he said, you know what? One thing I will never do, no matter how much power I have, I will not negotiate contracts with players. You just make enemies of the people you want to coach. And I think this has been very bad here. On top of the other part of this huge puzzle that we're seeing now coming down in a very negative way is the Kraft will say, and Belichick, we spent to the cap. But they didn't go out and get the big free agents. And that's what the game is today. You need a quick fix. You don't wait for the draft. You go out and get the free agent. They are among the lowest spending teams in all of football. I put that back on Kraft. He might deny it, but I put that back on him as well as Belichick. So there's a lot of things that are interconnected here that have to do with the situation you're in now. And it's going to
overriding all this, overriding the entire soap opera. I keep asking myself the question, and have for a long time, for years actually, keep asking myself the question, why do we care so much? Why have we made this such a soap opera that it's everything everybody talks about? All they care about is this Belichick coming back? Who's going to replace him? Is Gerard Mayo running people the wrong way? What is the problem here? Why do we care so much about this?
Well, I don't.
It's more, well,
I'm interested, but you know what? It says we don't have much going on with the rest of our lives.
well, Mike, what do you think?
No.
I mean,
Something happens to us here, and not just here in New England, everywhere. We get emotionally attached to a team, and we invest so much in it that we just can't get ourselves out of it. And that happens with the Red Sox. It is now happening with the Patriots. Bruins fans feel the same way, and so do Celtics fans. Football is king. And when things are great, we have nothing to complain about. But when it's miserable, we're miserable. And unfortunately, that's the way we are. But we should be worried about taking a nice walk in the woods today.
I
now
do.
Is Belichick going to last in the last two games?
Here's what I, again, going back and learned when I was starting out going to training camps with my father in 1946, 9 years old. He said, remember something. If a writer, broadcaster asks you, who are you rooting for? Who do you like? Because he had been the Eagles and Steelers owner and loved the Bears. And he said, you are to say, I am neutral. I don't root for any team. And I started that as a kid to the point of where I root secretly or otherwise to see a great game, to see a great dynasty. But I think my perspective is, and maybe you guys disagree, that you have to love something. But my perspective is the only way I can love something is by standing back from it. I don't get involved. I don't care one way or another. All I ask is, as they say, a good performance.
I think that's fair. It's like you've taken a fan vaccine, like COVID. You've taken, instead of a COVID vaccine, you've taken a fan vaccine. You're vaccinated against becoming a fan. And because when you become a fan, you do cross over a line from appreciating the entertainment value versus rooting for a win or a loss.
And that's how you get them hooked. But on the other hand, let's look at the Patriots and the Red Sox in particular. And the Red Sox are relying upon people still wanting to see this historical ballpark. And I think that's really getting old. And I think particularly, I would say the Red Sox fans better become cynical, because your owner is cynical. He doesn't give a shit. He's in a different world now. Race cars, golf, a lot of other things. He's won his thing. He's made his conquest. He's won his girl. He married her, and now he wants to dump her. So that, to me, that's a bigger disgrace. The Patriots, I do really think the compelling thing about this story is the coach still wants to coach. The coach is still somewhat of a brilliant guy. The coach loves what he's doing. The owner loves the publicity, loves the idea of being a kingpin, loves to be on TV, feels like it's his family. And now he has got to make a decision of cutting somebody from his family, and it ain't going to be difficult. Or it is going to be difficult. I didn't think it was, but it's going to be now. That's the soap opera. I would separate myself from the fan, but I love all the elements. He has made it into a great mystery.
No, it's a Macbeth. It's Macbeth.
Lady Mac. Well, is he Lady Macbeth yeah? Would you agree that it is really Shakespearean?
Yes,
Well-
I think it's absolutely. I only wish Bill were here, Bill Shakespeare, not Bill O'Brien or Bill Belichick. Bill Shakespeare.
Hey,
was here.
You're
Right. Come on, do
get
the
a spot
story.
here. My good friend George Gray.
Yeah.
You know, if you're thinking about a new vehicle, go where Lobel and Lynch go. Go see our good friend, the big wheel himself, George Gray at George Gray's Lexington Toyota. We've been customers for years because we know that George Gray and his staff will treat you right. They're a family-owned and operated dealership that we trust and you can trust as well. Go see the big wheel himself, George Gray, at George Gray's Lexington Toyota. George is a great guy. He fills a big truck with toys for Christmas and brings them in, doesn't accept any credit, any publicity. He's a wonderful guy. I've been a customer for years. Loby's been a customer for years, and you'll do right by George Gray, the big wheel, we call him.
So even though I don't drive anymore, Joanne, do you want to get a car? She's laughing. Tell George Gray Joanne might want to get a car. If she does, she'll go in and see him.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's the man.
He's the big wheel.
Hooray for George Gray.
Hey, I was watching, I don't know, might have been Twitter or something or TikTok. It was just a little exchange. There was the captain's handshake, and Dick Butkus was playing for the Bears, and they were playing at Buffalo. I don't know who was the Buffalo captains, but they were out there, and at the end they shook hands like, "Okay, good luck today, good luck today." And as they turned around, Butkus goes, "Assholes."
That's another lost tradition. And now everybody hugs, they kiss, they exchange jerseys. I knew Butkus and Sayers both. And if you ask me the greatest draft I've ever seen in one day, were both of them taken in the first round. And when I sent one of our coaches out to scout Butkus, who I'd seen, he just wrote 2 words, radar nose, get him. That's what he thought about. There was nothing like it. Here's what I do miss a little bit. Can we stop the hugging, the exchanging of game jerseys? But more importantly, I'm really beginning to get pissed off with the end zone celebrations. Jesus Christ. If I want to see a Broadway play or a movie, do I have to watch this on it? They treat every play, even a tackle, like it's orgasm. I mean, it's ridiculous.
What's that?
Huh?
I'm sorry, never mind.
What's orgasm?
I was just going for a clarification. I just was trying to. What's happened is everything you've said has happened. You know, flags, players complaining on every play. I got flagged, I got held. Players, offensive linemen that say they've never held and they got their arms wrapped around. It's all the same thing. And then you got elderly ladies sliding down hills on sleds. You got geckos, you got emus, you got too much magic. These are the things that have filled our lives. Everything's kind of built into a package.
Wouldn't you say it's kind of shallow?
Well, my point is, why this goes right back to my question. We're supposedly intelligent part of the species on the planet. Why do we care so much?
We're addicted.
Mike, you have to go.
Yeah.
What it is addiction, but on the other hand, explain to me why half the country or more would go for a guy like Trump, who forget your politics, but I can go all the way back and tell you with him going back in the 70s when a sports writer called me and said to me about Trump, he said he's the biggest phony I've ever been around. He said I don't get it. But I mean, we are in the time of plasticness. Everybody's got a deal. Everybody is plastic. Everybody hugs. I mean, You would think that we're all the way on a private island somewhere where everybody's in a love fest. And yet, I predict that the TV, if it continues, people will, over a period of time, right now, it is the biggest thing. But over a period of time, people will, the human race eventually gets tired of things. And how tired they'll get of this, I don't know. But right now, it's the thing. But we'll see.
You know what I want to find out? Christmas Day. Always, it's been owned by the NBA for so many years. Who had better ratings? Did the NFL have better ratings, or did the NBA have better ratings on Christmas Day?
I'm guessing the NFL.
I would guess too, but I don't have any way of course.
Until the Celtics played the Lakers, I always avoided Christmas Day basketball. I mean, that puts you to sleep. You can wake up in the fourth quarter in the last 2 minutes and whatever else it is. That still holds with the end. But the other thing is, what does it also say about us on these important holidays of family, and whether you believe in something, a religion or whatever else it is, that the religion has become sports? I think that's dangerous. And
every stadium was banged out in the NFL on Christmas
yeah.
Day.
What's that say? They can't stand being with their family? We want to get away from these jerks for an hour? I mean, there's so many things there.
Uncle Earl's coming over. I'm going to go to the game.
You're what?
Uncle Earl is coming over. I'm going to go to the game.
Sure. But
all right, we should go because Lynchy's got therapy he's got to deal with. Not emotional.
I got therapy too, Bob.
Okay, I know. We're both
I need to speak to Sigmund Freud and find out who's on the double header. Are you kidding me?
Okay, that's good. Another great job, Upton.
So we solved it now.
Yeah.
We haven't really zeroed in on the Red Sox, except you brought up the owner, but I think it's more Tom Werner than anybody else right now. But
that's another time for baseball. We're in football mode right now.
I will say again, the national religion is the National Football League, at least for now. But I think that they've got to change certain things. They now want to go to China. They're going everywhere else. That's another thing. Here's what I really am bothered about for the player. It's now 17 games. It'll be 18 games. It'll eventually be 20. You're going to get on a plane and you're going to fly to Saigon and you're going to play a game there. And then you're going to come back and not be very good for 2 or 3 weeks. I asked 1963, the Colts had bought a sauna. And so I used to go in the sauna with the players on Monday. And I asked the players then, and I say it applies even today. I said, tell me how long from a Sunday game it takes you to recover, like you feel your full body back. And every one of the players said the same thing. Saturday, maybe Sunday morning. So think about that then when the players weren't as big. No, they hit like they did, as vicious as ever. Think about the guy that has to play on a Sunday and then turn around and play on Thursday. You asked me why so many injuries? The body doesn't recover.
It's like us after a sportscast on a Monday night. I'm not ready to come back till Wednesday or Thursday.
See?
It's tough.
The body doesn't recover. And now you're talking about guys that are going on to 400 pounds. Imagine getting hit. Why are the quarterbacks going down? Guys aren't protecting them, and they're getting hit in many ways. The speed of the game, if I told you from 1940 through the 50s, even the 80s and 90s, what's the big difference? I'd say the speed of the game, and when you hit with that velocity, the body can't take it.
Force, speed, and mass. Physics.
Yeah.
I know they had that at Kent State.
Are you kidding me? I aced that early in my Kent State career.
All right, guys.
Don't be
Great show.
bringing up Kent State because then I'll have to go into the Harvard thing, and I don't want to do that.
Well, we can get in that the next one. So
Okay.
anyway,
job.
guys, this is it for me. Is that?
Well, it is for the moment.
No.
I mean, I expect another 5 hours, but that's okay. No,
No.
my last thing to you. We've all done sports talk on radio,
We have.
like the NFL and its excess. Why do you need 4 hours when you can do it all in 2 hours, pack it in, have really good stuff like we used to? Now it's 4 hours of drag out, same bullshit. I mean, yeah, you can tune it in at 1 and come back at 4, and it's the same old thing. Why do we need that? I understand.
It's not a matter of need up there. It's a matter of
Money.
opportunity to make advertising dollars.
There it is. But if you would say, what's the ideal talk show? I say 2 hours, in and out. Have them come back for more. Now it's drone on. Oh my God! And some of the people that they throw out there now. You know what? I'd much rather watch.
That's another time. We can, after the football season's over, we can, access and talk about the excess of talk radio.
Here are my predictions in case you guys don't have me back on. Here it is. The Ravens definitely in the Super Bowl. And on the other side, it will either be the Eagles or the 49ers. I don't like either team, but that's what I think you're going to see.
Fair.
Most exciting player in pro football is Jackson. And just remember that the Patriots had an opportunity to take him on the second round. Josh McDaniels went down and looked at him, really liked him. Now, you could say bye-bye to Brady if you had Jackson here. That guy is electric. Is he going to get hurt? Absolutely. Has he been hurt? Absolutely. But boy, he gives you a dimension that's unbelievable.
Yeah. He is something else. All right, Upton, thank you. Robert, we'll see you all next week.
All right, guys. Happy New Year.
All right, make sure you follow us on unanchoredboston.com.
Good job.
Just remember, me and Taylor.